Hey everybody, Larry Powell here, your host for Studio HFL. Welcome. This is my 144th interview. This is with Louis Dowdeswell. Extremely talented, very articulate, and I think you're going to enjoy this. But before we get to his interview, here's a word from my sponsors. Messina Covers is not just any other case company. David Messina and Erica Howard design and produce some beautiful cases that fit both form and function. And you can choose your case design, fabric, and trim color, add custom engraving, and more. And of course, you can find out more at messinacovers.net. Peter Pickett and his crack team of craftspeople are continually innovating and providing the trumpet community with spectacular options for stock and custom mouthpieces. He and Eric Murine can help you find just the right size to fit your needs, and you should definitely consider trying the acrylic cup and rim. And if you're in the market for a custom trumpet, then Peter and Eric can build a Blackburn trumpet just for you. Check them out at pickettblackburn.com. To stay current on what's going on with Studio HFL, you can follow me on social media on Facebook and Instagram. And you can watch the live and pre-recorded interviews on the YouTube channel. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe. My first experience with a Hammond design mouthpiece has turned into a bit of obsession. There is something very comfortable about playing one of Carl's mouthpieces. The comfort, response, and sound are part of the HD experience. Try one of the stock mouthpieces or have Carl make you a custom one. Either way, everything is better in HD, and you can find out more at carlhammonddesign.com. If you're enjoying this podcast, I hope you are, I would love it if you would take just a couple of minutes and go to Apple Podcasts to leave a star rating and a review. Doing so will help improve the visibility of this podcast and draw more listeners. When I first tried an Eastman B-flat trumpet, I was blown away by both the playability and the sound. And the more I found out about the company and got to know the people, I knew that this was a company I wanted to have a relationship with. There is a drive for excellence in design and production of every instrument, not just the high-end products. And the proof of this is that the one and only Doc Severinsen helped to design the Eastman beginner trumpet model. I still play that B-flat and have added a spectacular cornet and flugelhorn to my arsenal. You can find out more at eastmanwins.com. I'd love it if you'd visit the Studio HFL website and sign up for the weekly newsletter. And while you're there, you can also visit the merch page and buy a Studio HFL shirt for yourself and as a gift for someone else. Of course, you can do that at StudioHFL.com. My current situation with my C trumpet is a bit ridiculous. My Shire C, which Samantha Lane helped me trial and choose, is the most versatile C I've ever played. The same goes for the new Destino designed by Doc. This horn sizzles when I need it to sizzle and is as smooth as silk when I wear my never mind. Anyway, the line of Shire's trumpets includes the Q series, which are production models, and the custom series. Either way you go, you'll love the sound you get, and you'll also experience exceptional customer service. Find out more at seshires.com. Here's how you can access exclusive content like the interview excerpts. I'd like to invite you to become a part of the Studio HFL community by going to Patreon and choosing from one of the 4 tiers of support. You can help to financially support the show for as little as $36 a year. That's only $3 a month. Benefits include exclusive access to interview excerpts, a behind-the-scenes report, an invitation to be in the room with a guest during an interview, product discounts, and more. You can join the community of faithful supporters by visiting patreon.com/StudioHFL. And now, on with the interview. It's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Yeah, you too.
And I tell all of my guests, I feel like I've been stalking you guys for a while because, I follow you on Facebook and YouTube, and I know way more about you at this point than you do about me. But I talked to Wayne, interviewed him a few months ago, and of course your name came up in conversation, and he's I think he's rather impressed by by your talents. For sure.
Yeah, bless him.
He's
the best. He's the best.
Yeah. In fact, I had gone through some chop issues recently, and I called him and I said, "Hey, man, Bobby Shue, the same thing. I called him and I said, help," and they were great, both of them.
Man, they know more about the trumpet than they need to, but it's as in they know just so much like about all those little things that can help, and it
Right.
makes such a huge difference being able to speak to someone like who can also not only play but understand all of those little things that make everything a bit easier when we play. You know,
Right.
that's what I always think of when I think of Wayne and Bobby as teachers. But yeah, man, they're killing. Oh
Yeah.
man, that's great. Yeah, Wayno's great. I had a little chat with him the other day. He seems to be doing really well, which is nice because he had some pretty bad news over lockdown. But I think
Is he putting weight back on? I knew that was something he was trying to do.
I'm not sure because I'm not sure if it's all public knowledge yet, but I believe that he is. He called me to sort of tell me that he'd done very well against the cancer.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know whether that's common knowledge yet. Either way, I think
well, and
I'll
keep that out.
It's good news. He just basically said, I wanted to talk to you about it before I put it on Facebook, and he hasn't put it on Facebook yet, so I didn't know whether he had started explaining it. But either way, it seems to be very good news, unless things have changed since I spoke to him. And I guess he'll be looking to put some weight back on. I think he wants to stay a bit lighter anyway. He's a big guy anyway, you know. It's just every single time I go and see him, I'm just like, oh yeah, you're pretty big, just as like as a personality and as an experience. He's he certainly plays like that as well. But yeah, man, he's killing. Yeah, so yeah, wicked.
Well, so we could talk about Wayne, you know, for an hour if you wanted to, but really, no, you know, I want to know more about you, and you know, and I tell people, look, this is not a gearhead podcast. You know, if they want to know what mouthpiece or trumpet you play, they can check your website or they can email you. But you know, I like to talk about things, life, music, you know, how you're managing things during this ridiculous time right now. And in fact, are you in London?
I'm about 14 miles out of London centre, so within the orbital motorway, which is considered Greater London. I'm on the edge of that, but it's really awkward. I'm like in a different town, but you would still consider this London for anyone that doesn't live in London.
Well, it's the same here in Indianapolis, right? We live on the outskirts, and so we still say Indianapolis.
Right? Yeah, even though like when I went to Chicago, I was staying in a place called Naperville. From my point of view, that's Chicago. Even though it's not, right? Even though it's a different city. So yeah, I guess it's kind of similar.
Yeah. So, but you guys are in the middle of a 30-day lockdown. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I can only imagine that they're locking down and that they're going to continue these lockdowns as long as they have a vaccine around the corner. Sort of sounds counterintuitive, right? But I guess they're trying to save lives at the extent, you know, at the expense of the economy. If the vaccine proves to be, you know, one that we can use, because right now, like the UK's economy has dropped so drastically, there's going to be massive consequences with our National Health Service and things. So there are going to be, you know, plenty of excess deaths that could have been prevented without lockdown. But I'm not on really one side of the argument necessarily. I don't really know what to think. I hope the government know more about this than I do. So I'm presuming they do. And if they do, then hopefully they're taking the correct precautions, even if things that they're doing look stupid from my point of view. So, you know, it's a bit, everything looks like too obviously wrong for it to actually be wrong, if you see what I mean.
I've got a friend that lives up in Birmingham.
Oh yeah.
And we had worked cruise ships together a few years back, but we've stayed in touch. And she was telling me, I guess, that the UK government had deemed like artists' careers, what was it?
Unviable.
Yes. And it was a jaw-dropping moment. It's like, are you kidding? I mean, we know it's going to be a struggle going into this anyways, but to essentially say that, not necessarily that it's not essential, but not viable, man, that hurts.
Yeah. Well, you're probably talking to one of the very few people that is, wouldn't say in agreement with that statement if it was taken out of context at all, but I'm very much under the impression that we're all going to need to adapt anyway to how we make money during this period and how we continue to do that. And I'm young enough, or should I say, not old enough to be able to just sit on my laurels and live off whatever accumulative wealth I have earned over the past 30, 40 years of my career. I need to find another way of doing things or go and do something else. Because whether or not the government says what I'm doing is unviable, we have some very, very strange financial, self-employed, grant-based money things that are going to people that are probably requiring requiring a financial bailout when they're earning. It's complicated, right? So a lot of the people that have been creating work for people over the last 20 years haven't been given absolutely no support.
Yeah.
But the people that have been doing that work for the people that have been creating the work are being bailed out by the government.
Yeah.
In other words, if you earn over £50,000, even one penny over that, then you get zero support. And the reason for that is that supposedly, if you earn over £50,000, on average, you will earn £250,000, which I don't know what you do about the people that earn below £250,000 and more.
Right.
So,
Right.
I don't expect my government to understand the nuances of my business because it's such a weird business anyway, particularly the way that people communicate and the way that people find themselves doing bookings and are being fixed to do things. And actually, the career progression is also very strange and unnatural, particularly from like an employment point of view. Usually, with an employed person, you would sort of start at the bottom and then just slowly go to the top, or move and bridge your gap and go up to in a different company. What we do, it either happens really quickly or it never happens. It's kind of the way it goes, or you could be one of the very few people that maybe just sort of stays there and then kind of rapidly, finds their feet a bit further on. But generally speaking, once you hit a certain point in your playing, and you're the right personality and the right sort of person, then it should work out for you. Regarding COVID, it's like I don't actually know what the government is supposed to do. Like I don't know what they can do for people like me who have thrown all their eggs into doing something that, funnily enough, a pandemic is going to crush. But I'm also incredibly realistic about it, and I have to look at alternative ways of earning money. That doesn't mean not music related, but as I said at the beginning of this spiel I've just started with, I think it's very important that we look to adapt rather than to. I think it's very what's the word? It's ineffective to just complain. So I don't expect my government to understand the nuances of my industry, and I also recognise that the more money that's given out to people, the more money I'll be paying for in taxes as a result of that in the future.
Right.
And I try and look at it as measured as I can. I almost wish that they were giving out less money so that I didn't have to pay for it in the end. But maybe that's selfish. I'm not sure. But either way, I try and be realistic about these things, and I hope that they know more about this than I do, because if they do, then they can make a better informed decision than I can. And as I
Sure.
said at the beginning, like, it all seems to be wrong, and it can't all be wrong. It can't all be wrong. They have to know something I don't know, and I'm willing to give them that sort of leniency, if you will, to make those decisions. But regarding the industry, I don't think it's ever going to come back the way it was, and I'm going to look back at my life in 20 or 30 years time and think about those sort of 7 or 8 years of my life where, when I started playing, they were like the good old days. Which is kind of weird thought that it's not going to be the same, but I'm going to have to look at alternatives. Education and things like that are perfectly, good ways of earning money, and also very honest and helpful and useful. And so hopefully I have a bit of information to give away, and maybe look to do something like that. I'm not sure.
Well, I appreciate the depth that you went into that, because I think a lot of artists aren't necessarily thinking as deeply about the situation, or they know they have to adapt but they're just sitting there like, no idea which way to go, right? I mean,
Yep.
and so there are going to be some that are not viable, some that are going to disappear, and then it's what comes out on the other side are going to be, I think, spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, with remarkable, tragedy, trauma always seems to create great art. You
Yes.
can't
Agree.
imagine that coming out of the pandemic won't create better music, better dance, better paint, better
Yep.
artistic, better poetry, better literature all the way around. Um, so
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that we have to go through it, but humanity will benefit somehow
Yeah.
culturally on the other side.
It appears to me as though some people are going to lose their jobs over this. Musicians, as I say, I'll be honest and realistic about it. Are there too many musicians working right now? I don't know the answer to that question, but it's a question being asked. Are wages of musicians going down more than they should be? Just pre-COVID. Again, I don't know the answer to that question, but it's definitely a question that's worth asking and actually having a conversation about. Would fewer musicians make the wages of musicians go up? Quite possibly. Is that something that is useful? Again, it's a question that needs to be asked and talked about, but I don't have the answers to these things. I just ask questions because I think they're interesting. I think with regards to whether or not some people will choose to go and do something else and will never go back to playing, that's a decision that needs to be made on an individual level. The word unviable I find interesting. I feel like people are like jumping on this word. Like there's no way that Boris Johnson doesn't that he thinks that art is unviable. Like he is the biggest fan of art. Like he really is. And that would
Mm-hmm.
be silly not to suggest. And I'm not trying to show support or dismay at the guy. I'm just trying to state what I think is fact. And I feel as though at the end of this there will be fewer players. And when I say adapt, the first thing that happened in the pandemic, I remember Callum Au, who we may get onto later as a partner of mine, a musical partner of mine, and he's my best man at my wedding. We're very very close, and we sort of work a bit as business partners. We sort of fulfill each other's cracks um, in our special abilities, if you will. So we
Mm-hmm.
work really really well to use each other to kind of create things. Anyway, he said to me, I was like, I don't really know what to do at the beginning of the pandemic. Should I just sort of chill out and do nothing, take the government grant and have a laugh? And he said, no. He said, right now is the time that you should turn it on, because it's times like this where competition becomes interesting. A lot of people will sit on their laurels and they'll wait for it to go away, and then they'll think that things will be there at the end. Callum was saying it's times like this where if you get ahead of the game now, I don't know what it might be, like just starting a company, or like uh coming up with, like, trying to come up with new fresh ideas. If you are one of the people that is trying to innovate, then when this is over, you will have a way bigger, like, stepping stone than the people that just sort of waited, because they'll have sunk. I'm not sort of talking necessarily about like individual competition. I don't
Mm-hmm.
really look at the industry like that. Some people do. I don't. I just see it as everyone trying to help each other, make a bit of dosh and enjoy what they do. But he's right to say that there are two ways that you can behave during a time like this. For me, anyway, when we started, I ended up buying a house right at the beginning of it, which I don't know whether it was a good or bad idea in my first place. And I've spent the entire of lockdown learning DIY. I'm currently building an outdoor studio in my back garden, and things like that. So I'm trying to, like, not reskill, which is what the government have asked us
Mm-hmm.
to do,
Mm-hmm.
but just you know get more skills and find other things that maybe I enjoy as well. Like, my
Mm-hmm.
dad loves building stuff. He's built houses in the past. He's an electronic engineer, but I've never really got massively into it because the trumpet's always taken priority. And there have been maybe a month or so where I haven't played over this period, and I've managed to skill up pretty heavily in other sides, which I found as fun, if not more fun, than playing. Because when you're on that trajectory up the skill level, the ladder, it's much quicker at the bottom of it, and then it slows down once you get better. So if you can hit 80% in all those skills, then it's quite satisfying, and I'm quite like that anyway. So it's been, for me, this has been a great period of my life. I wouldn't say that it's been the best for my career, but everyone's come to a standstill. So either you get on with it and try and make something happen, or you just wait, and we'll see what happens at the end. I think that's where it is.
Let's take a little bit of a left turn, and let's talk about, you said, looking back, maybe 7 or 8 years that you'd been playing trumpet. You've been playing longer than that.
Yeah. I've been playing since I was 9. So
okay.
I'm 27 on Sunday. So.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. So yeah, I'll have been playing for quite a while, put it that way.
So did you come up, I think there's some stereotypes with the British, the English schools, is that you come up through a brass band in a community, and is that kind of the situation with you?
No. I came from, I did play in a brass band in the Portishead Town Band down in southwest of England. I'm sort of mainly from the southwest near Bristol. And there was a brass band there, but I didn't have a cornet. I only had a trumpet, and I borrowed a cornet and started playing in their youth band. And I did play for them for quite a while, but that wasn't really I wouldn't have considered that like my forward road. I would have considered that as like just something I had on the side. Not suggesting for a second I didn't learn anything from that experience. I did, but it wasn't that took me, further forward quickly. For some people, like that's all there is in their communities, particularly up in the north. I'm not suggesting that there aren't music schools and things like that people can go to, but there really is a culture up north, and it's a pretty old culture of every town having a band, and everyone basically getting an opportunity to play in that band. And the people that show most talent end up going into the band, and then they have the competitions between all the different towns. And that's been a thing, for a very long time. Mining communities and things like that. So I'm not from a town like that. I'm from a town in the south, and there are some brass bands in Wales, and there are some other brass bands in the very far end of southwest of the UK, down on the little tail in Cornwall, but mainly it's up in the north. And a lot of the players I know, even still around my generation, some of the really great players, some trombone players as well, some tuba players, they all went through, particularly the northern ones, they all went through that progression. And some of the best players in the country are brass banders like Phil Cobb, for example. Very, very well known for being part of that community, and he's just an absolutely astonishing trumpet player. Yeah, it's crazy. But no, I kind of, my mum was a music teacher, so and she ran a big band, so it was more like, for me, it was, being allowed to go and hear her big band play. It was like a semi-professional band, if you will. You had some guys that played on weekends and stuff, and they just had a blow band on a Wednesday, and we would go down as kids, go and watch it, and I actually played drums first before trumpet. So I started playing drums in the band before I started playing trumpet in the band. So that was really fun. But yeah, and then I went to a couple of different music schools, and then onto the Royal Academy of Music in London.
Well, but there had to be a point in there though where you were like, at 9 years old, you're not thinking I'm going to make this a career, right? There had to be a period of inspiration where you're like, hey, you've either experienced a live concert or a recording of somebody who's just like, blown your mind, where you're like, okay, I got to be like this person. Or you have these performance experiences where, like, that rush of adrenaline, right, that we get for some performances is like, and some of us end up chasing that, into a career, hoping to get that
Yeah.
feeling every time. What was it for you that made you decide to make it a career?
Oh, maybe this is a bad answer, but it's an honest one. In all honesty, I can't pinpoint anything in particular that did it. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a pilot. I spent so much time playing Microsoft Flight Simulator 98. When I was a kid, I just loved it. It's the only thing that ran on my computer. But at the time, but I wanted to be a pilot. But it's weird, I got and no regrets here, by the way, but I got sort of put in a system of these I'm not sure you have them in the US, and we only have, I think, 3 or 4. Excuse me, 3 or 4 in this country, but they're specialist music schools. So when I was 10, I'd only been playing. Maybe I started when I was 8. I don't remember, but I maybe only been playing like a year and a half, 2 years, and I think I was probably quite good as a child. I don't remember really, but I went to this specialist music school that was in the southwest of England, and my mum managed to get me in there. It was boarding school, and my sister was already there playing clarinet, and the trumpet teacher there is a guy called Paul Denegry. I also had another one called Simon Jones, and they were incredibly inspiring guys. And I was classically trained there until I was 16. And in these schools, when I was a boarder, I'll give you a quick rundown of my my practice scenario at the age of 10. All right. You wake up. I think it was something like you wake up at 6:30, and then you have breakfast at 7:05, and then you finish your breakfast at 7:30, something like this, and then you had early morning practice. All right. So early morning practice, you walk down to the music school. I think it was something like 7:45 to 9:10 when school started. So you had practice sessions that were what's the word? Not accompanied. Overlooked by these practice or supervised by these practice supervisors, and there were these guys that just finished university or something, or music college, and they wanted a job for a year. So they would go down to Wells, where I was at school, and they would overlook you practicing. And so we had an hour and a half in the morning, and then we had usually maybe 2 hours in the day, and then we had after school practice, which was before dinner, which lasted another hour and 15 minutes. So at age 10, I had maybe 4.5 hours of practice scheduled into my diary at school every day, and usually on the weekends as well. They had these things set in. So it was a really intense program. Yeah. And like even when my mum moved to Wells and I stopped being a boarder and my little sister joined, we still had practice periods allocated in the day instead of lessons. So there was still 2-3 hours every day. And if you weren't practicing, you were told you had to practice because of course, invariantly, we were trying to mess around as kids sometimes when the supervisors had gone to a different floor or something. But you really would practice for a lot of time, and it just from that moment on, it just didn't seem realistic there would be anything else I'd do. There were some players there that were absolute virtuosos, and they've gone on. Some of them have become soloists. Some of them have become, accompanists. Some of them have become, all sorts of things. But then there are some people also that didn't make it. And for those people, I maybe feel a little bit more sympathetic towards because they're not promised this like career of vibrant, this amazing career as a musician, but it definitely feels as though if you are in one of these schools, you are the creme de la creme of the players in the country. It wouldn't necessarily be the case, I'm not suggesting. I'm just saying that when you're there, you feel like you're there, you've got a gigantic scholarship to an incredible school because you're a good musician. You feel like because of that, you just go through the program. And then almost everyone at the end of these schools goes into music college. And some people don't. Some people go to university and they study something else. But most people go to music college. And then what you do when you get to music college is you realize that, there are some really great players that didn't go to one of these schools. So you start sort of thinking like, and to be honest with you, I know it doesn't really answer your question necessarily, but it really has just been like this this process of just continuing what I was probably quite good at. There wasn't really anything else to it. I like being good at things, and if there's something I'm good at, I tend to do it more. And I just kept doing that. And then for me, especially like with, if you will, like maybe something in my playing, like the high note thing, you know.
Wait, you can play high notes?
That's what people like to talk to me about. None of that came through this process either. Like I sort of figured a lot of that stuff out myself. But what I mean is like it's interesting when I look back that I can't really see any other way that this would have gone. And I actually think that's a really good thing, because when I got to 20, I was pretty well informed about what I had coming for me, you know, as a muso. And like, I know so many people I know that play now, they had only decided they were going to be a musician when they were 16 or 17. Like, I can't remember the day I decided I play trumpet. It just felt like the right thing to do. And as I say, I used to be a drummer before I was a trumpet player. And I think the proof in this is that I was clearly a better trumpet player than I was a drummer. And that just overtook it. So whatever I was going to be better at, I think I was just going to pursue that and just go for it. You know, I kept, when I was a kid, I could always get the old sort of, oh, you got to make sure you've got your backup plan. You know, of course, I never did. I never had my backup plan, and now I'm sitting in a pandemic in my house, just kind of chilling out, trying to fix my fridge, you know, or something like that. But it's I don't really have anything in particular. I mean, maybe my mum's big band, and in 1999, the Big Fat Band released a record called "Swinging for the Fences," their first one, and I heard Wayne play for the first time. So I would only have been 6 or 7 when I heard that, and I hadn't even started playing the trumpet at that point. So I remember trying to play all those things when I was a kid, at maybe 10 or 11 years old, and getting nowhere near them. But still, it was an inspiration. It was something to look for, and I just wanted to be Wayne Bergeron. So maybe that was it. But I think even by that point, I didn't know what else I was gonna do. It just felt like, okay, this is I guess what I'm gonna do. And with my mum and music teacher, just sort of worked out that way. It's kind of a long-winded, sort of boring story, but it's the truth.
Well, it's not boring. I mean, and you know, people say that all the time. Sorry for the long answer to your question. I'm like, no, that was the best answers are the long ones, right?
Yeah.
So during that time you were at that school, you said about 9 to 6 or 10 to 16, right? Were you gigging? Did you start gigging at all during that, or was it just focused on school?
So straight after I went to that school, I went to another school very similar that is about a mile away from where I am now, called the Purcell School. There are only 180 students in it, and I was a boarder there as well. So I had a great couple of years there. It's just hilarious. Met some of my closest mates. Anyway, very similar school, much smaller, but really close to London. So for me, we used to have Saturday school at Wells, which was the first school I was at. And there's a program called the National Youth Jazz Orchestra in the UK, and it's been going for over 50 years now. And every single player, any commercial player that you know from the UK, bar a couple, went through that process.
Wow.
That process back in the day, back in the good old days, it's not so much the same now. They've kind of changed it up a bit, which maybe I'll talk about on a different podcast. But it used to be this really, they would rehearse on Saturdays, and it was up to 25 years old, which is quite a big deal, because when you're a kid, generally speaking, you're playing with people that are the same age as you. And if you're like a lot of these people that were in the National Youth Jazz Orchestra, better than everyone else playing in the same age as you, there would be nowhere for you to go to get an experience where you could be with people that were maybe a couple, 3 years older than you, that had a bit more experience. So this is a great opportunity. My mum used to drive us 3 hours every Saturday there and back to go and play in these rehearsals. And they had like the National Youth Jazz Orchestra 2 or NIJO 2 that I started in. And then they would pick people from that band to move up to number 1. But there would be like 12 or 15 trumpet players turning up to number 1 that are all the music colleges in London, and all trying to basically fight for a spot. that was what it was. It was a big brawl of testosterone. Everyone was in there trying to get in, elbows in, no, I'm playing this tune, and then if you miss something, you were off, it's really cutthroat environment. And
Wow.
I'm not suggesting for a second that environment is right for everybody, but for me, it was amazing. And it was amazing for Callum, and it was amazing for so many of the other players that were there. And that has now gone. It doesn't run in the same way it used to. Maybe for good reason for some people, but for me, as I say, like I really, really learned a lot from that experience. And that band was like, it had some unbelievable musicians in it. And that band, as I say, it rehearses on Saturdays, and it used to have maybe 2 or 3 gigs a week, which when you were a kid was great. And you'd always get paid £60 for a gig, which I tell you what, when you're 13, when you're 15 or 16 years old, £60 goes a long way. That's a lot of McDonald's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it was really great, and it was pocket money for me. And I wasn't in the band until 2012 officially, or maybe I wasn't lead trumpet with the band until 2012. And when I took over as lead trumpet, that was an opportunity for me to play lead trumpet every single week. I think I was 17 or 18 with other 25-year-olds. And I had to I was dictating to them. Everyone in the band was older than me. I had to dictate to them, like, how we were going to phrase this. It was such an amazing experience for a lead trumpet player. And I was just fortunate that I had chops, because that was really the only difference between me and some of the other guys. It was that a lot of the music that they had in the band was written by people in the band, and it was almost unplayable. So whoever could get closest got the chance. And the year that I took over on lead trumpet, my contemporary Tom Walsh, he had left as lead trumpet before, and he kind of taken me under his wing, and I basically learned from him, musically, what to what level of intensity and to what level of sort of detail these things had to be taken to. And without that, no one had ever talked to me about how important it was to come off on 4. Do you know what I mean? Just like, and it sounds crazy now, but at the time, I was totally unaware that the end of the note was as important as the beginning of the note. But learning it that way was the right way for me. So as I say, when I was 15, I started traveling up with my mum to London. And then when I was 16, I left that school because it had Saturday school, and I moved to London and went to a different one of those schools. And then I didn't have Saturday school. So I could travel in from where I live now, like 15 minutes into London, do those rehearsals. And then that was kind of my stepping stone into the industry, because when you're in Nijo and someone on a gig with maybe the Sid Lawrence Orchestra or somebody like that falls ill last minute, they need a student, they go to Nijo. Who's playing lead trumpet in Nijo? He'll be good enough. So then they call you. So then you get another stepping stone. And then these stepping stones are the way that you build your career particularly in London, just always being there at the right time, the right place. And then when you get the opportunity, go and do it and nail it. You can't screw up, because there are too many players for you to
Right.
do that. So you just got to go and do your best. And if people like you, you'll be back. And that's kind of that's the process for me, was going to that band and have people recommend me for things, and then hopefully I'll go and not make a fool of myself. I'm sure it's happened before, but
Well, and that stuff doesn't end up on YouTube, right? I mean,
yeah.
So you mentioned the high notes, and of course that's part of what distinguishes you from a lot of players. It's like Wayne or Roger Ingram, any of those guys. But there are a lot of guys and gals that can play high notes, but not necessarily can do the musically, and not play the style. So I look at your playing as not like, wow, he's a great high note guy. I'm like, man, he's a great musician.
Thank you.
And honestly, that's really because, I appreciate that you can scream the way you do, and you play really clean like Wayne. I mean, that's something I think that a lot of people were impressed by with Wayne when he first came on the scene, was like, holy cow, that's clean. Right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Right. And it's just like, and Maynard was Maynard, but Wayne provided something. I think people were hungry for that. But anyway, so I look at your playing as, he's got high notes, but first of all, great arrangements.
Yes.
played
Callum.
really well. I mean, you put together some bands that are just, I mean, it seems like the best of the best players.
Oh yeah, they're badass. They're amazing.
Yeah, right. So,
Yeah.
and so the high notes seem like icing on the cake, maybe.
I
Right.
appreciate that, because that's how I want it to be seen as well. You got to remember as well, like as I said at the beginning of this podcast or this interview, that for me, like, this whole conversation about COVID, for example, without going back there, it's I'm much more a much more a product over process guy. I'm much more interested in doing something and making a product that I think appeals to lots of people and will make lots of people happy. I'm not particularly interested in what it does for me, like on an artistic level, if you see what I mean. Everyone's different. Some people are soul searching for this thing that they need to make, if you know what I mean, that defines them. I just hope that what I make and create, people will enjoy. I and by the way, I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. So I still enjoy the process. But the high note thing is, as I said to you earlier as well, like with Nijo, that's where I learned how to play in the upper register musically. And if you look at Wayne, Wayne didn't become world famous until 2000. Not really. Like, he was always a great player, but we didn't know about him as much until the Big Fat Band came out. I certainly hadn't heard of him, and my parents hadn't, and they were big band fans. I'm sure it was a little different in the US, but from a like a world point of view, Anyway, I'm very fortunate to have had him as my idol, and as my conceptual sort of like goal. So the way I play is like, I guess here it sort of starts with his influence. It sort of starts with his influence, but the high notes shouldn't sound like high, in my opinion. I want them to sound exciting, not really fussed as to whether or not they sound impressive or not. I want them to sound exciting, and there's a certain way that Wayne plays that is both impressive and exciting, and very, very usable in 2020.
Yep.
Like, people want that on their record. And I think when I was a kid, I sort of thought about that. And as I said earlier, not so interested in the process. I am more in the product. I thought, right, that seems like a really good, I must have thought this as a kid. That seems like a really good thing to try and achieve. If I can sound like Wayne, then I can work like Wayne, and then, I probably...
now, you know what? Hang on, though. I've had that same thought, but it hasn't worked for me.
I think maybe I think I have, as I was saying, I think I might have age on my side, though, because there's a certain amount of, when you're a child, you soak up like a sponge, and whatever you're sort of exposed to in those crucial years, I think, particularly from learning lead trumpet, the ages of between 14 and 23, when your body is becoming capable of actually exerting that sort of the energy, because it's a big energy ask. I think that's a really crucial time for lead trumpet player, to figure a lot of things out and to soak everything up. And I used to literally sit on YouTube, and every day I would type in Wayne Bergeron and then like search it and filter it by upload date. So every single day I would watch the latest video that came out, and I had seen every single video on YouTube of Wayne. Not recently, of course. I'm a little older and I haven't got the time to do that. But when I was a kid, I used to do that, and I'd be up till 4 a.m. watching videos of Wayne, and it was just osmosis. It just went in, and I approached playing much more like Wayne when I was younger than how I do now. And that's the interesting thing, is that as I've become more influenced by other musicians as well, like things I've moved away from some things that Wayne does, not by choice, but just by what happens to you musically.
Yeah,
So I
you
think
broaden
that
your style.
my approach used to be more like Wayne than it is now, but I'm more capable of playing as clean as Wayne now than I was when I was younger. So it's like a musical concept thing. But I think I'm very fortunate to have had Wayne as like a target and have YouTube as an opportunity to not only lap up everything that there is to learn about and like see him, not only hear him play, see him
Right.
play. That's super important, and see him playing live, different thing. It's just as good, but it's a different thing. But not only, as I say, to soak all of that up, but to also put stuff onto YouTube, and also the ability to film myself on my phone, and that be a good enough standard for me to learn more about my playing and help sort of like, I feel as though like there's so much helping musicians now get good that there's no excuse not to be good, particularly
Right.
if you're growing up now. Do you know what I mean? Like, think about it. I
Absolutely.
say this in clinics to kids all the time. It's like, just think about growing up in the 70s, 80s, or even 90s without the internet. I don't care whether it was a vinyl, a tape, or a CD. You had to go out and buy it. You had to have it so that it was available to you. If it wasn't available to you, then how are you even possibly going to know? And they don't get it. They don't understand that they have all the information in the world at their fingertips, and they're too lazy to use it. So it's totally different. So I kind of got lucky, I think, in the time I grew up, where I remember the world without the internet, so I appreciated it when it came. But when the internet came, I was really interested in it. I'm a big computer geek, and I really enjoyed sort of like doing that and enjoying that side of things. But with regards to high notes, it's just something I really wanted to do. Really, 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 really wanted to do it, and so I did it. And I know that sounds like but I honestly think there might be some of my anatomy that helps with that. Maybe, but uh, I've always been really interested in if you could take my brain out of my head and put it in someone else's, could I play a double C? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
No, well, no, I agree with you. I think there's something, physically or physiological about everybody. I mean, if you look at, some lead players, they have a gap between their front teeth, right?
Yeah.
And so some people go out and try to put a gap between their front teeth,
Yeah.
to do that. Or some people play, Maynard played off center. So, they may try to, but I think it's something physical. You mentioned going to YouTube, and I think it's a great resource. I go there all the time.
Oh yeah.
And in the last few years, and I think I've watched all that I could find, but Derek Watkins,
Oh yeah.
even though maybe some of his playing might be a little bit dated,
Yeah.
there's still the musicality that came from him and the creativity in his playing, and of course the ease of playing. I mean, he's another one that made it just look ridiculously easy.
Oh
But
man.
So you're a fan of his too, I guess.
Oh yeah. Derek's an absolute legend here. I guess you would sort of, particularly our generation, would sort of consider him to be the granddad of the trumpet here. I unfortunately never got to work with him. I had one masterclass with him at the academy, and I saw him play a couple of times, but I was just on the cusp of breaking into the industry. This is 20. He passed away in 2013.
15, I think. 13.
2013, yeah. And then they had his memorial in 2014. It was the year after Wayne came over the first time to do his set. I think it was then. Either maybe it was 2014. Anyway, I can't remember. I just remember like being upset that I never got a chance to actually play next to him, because there's something about playing with players like sitting next to them is a whole other experience. And it's not really about it's not really about the sound that they're making, or like, that's all great and that's really important, but it's what it does to your playing that I'm really interested in. Like,
right?
What does it do to you when you play next to someone like that? How much does it lift you, and how exciting is it? And it's not, as I said, it's all of it. It's the conversation, it's the playing, it's the excitement. There's so much that you can get from playing next to somebody of that caliber. It's funny, I'd never worked with Wayne before until October 2019. Not worked with him properly, in a section. We were at the Blue Note in Tokyo. I just got off my honeymoon. I hadn't really played much, and I was really nervous about it because I hadn't, as I say, I hadn't played a huge amount, but because I'd been away. But everything was fine, but it was just one of those things. You sit next to him, and you just like every night, you're just like looking over, and you're just like, what? It's like, what even is that? Like, how?
Right.
And then Wayne sort of go, oh, my chops don't feel great, and you go, what? You're absolutely killing this, man. It's amazing. It's the same thing. I wish I'd experienced that with Derek. I have experienced that sort of feeling with a few other people. One person in particular would be Simon Gardner. He's just got this way of like, it's so hard to explain, but when you play next to him, and then let's say there's a phrase that's like "boba bep," something like that, and like the drums are going blah, 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 and then something like that. Anyway, straight after that quarter note, "boba bep," the sound in the room, that's the thing you're listening to, and it's just absolutely incredible because you can't put a finger on what it is. And you don't get that necessarily. I mean, you do get the experience out front from it. That's why he's so in demand. But sitting next to it, as I said, it makes you play better. It makes you feel better. It makes you enjoy your playing more because you're getting to play next to someone that is just making everything sound like it should sound. That's the thing. Make it sound like it. Make it sound like it's on a record. Make it sound like it's actually real. It's absolutely amazing. There are only a handful of people that can really, really do that. And that's because there are only a handful of people that can make it sound like it's really meant to sound. Someone like Conrad Gozzo, that's how it's supposed to sound.
Right.
Like,
yeah. So, it's I've had the good fortune in the last few years. I've been able to play next to Rex Richardson, Doc Severinsen, Ronnie Rom, and these are not high profile gigs, but still, well, first of all, they're icons, the idols, right?
Yeah.
And they all play very differently, but still, I seem to raise my playing that for that particular. And I just, I wish everybody could get that experience, whether it's a gig or even a master class, a clinic, right? Something just to be able to, even play duets or play scales next to somebody like that. I think you'd learn an awful lot, right?
Yep. And also, interestingly enough, people are so quick to sort of suggest that you get a great lead trumpet player and they make the band sound better because they're the top voice. That's not what it is. That happens. But the reason that the lead trumpet player makes the band sound better is because everyone plays better when there's a good lead trumpet player. So it's a great investment in like resources to expected outcome. Like you're much better off getting like a tier below on trumpets 2, 3, and 4 by having a great lead trumpet player there, because they're going to pull everyone up. Everyone, not just the trumpet players. All the saxes are going to play better. Everyone's tuning is going to be better. Like everything will be better because of that one person, and that's a lot for someone to take on board as a lead trumpet player. The responsibility, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But these guys that can do it, they're the ones that I aspire to be and sound like. It's just awesome. And as I say, it's not only about how they play, it's about how they conduct themselves in those environments as well. It's a whole other thing. This is all the stuff that you just don't see unless you sat there.
It's interesting talking to people like Greg Wing or Rick Baptist or who else was I talking to? Well, it'll come back to me. I've had quite a few interviews. Some of the stuff mixed together, but they're I got called to go on the road with Buddy Rich, and show up and there's no rehearsal, right? And you got to play lead, It's like, and okay, and so even with Buddy Rich, right? I mean, he's infamous for being just a tyrant, anyways.
Oh yeah.
But think about that pressure with what you're talking about. You're a lead trumpet player, but you haven't really had a chance to get to know anybody in the band, and maybe your reputation precedes you, so it's a little easier to come and set in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big burden to carry, to walk in and just, I mean, you got to have. This is where a good ego is really healthy, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get out of jail free cards if you're a nice guy. Like that's more important than a hell of a lot of things. And that's what I want to be surrounded by as well. Because when you're playing, again, it's the same thing. When you're playing with your friends and everyone is rooting for each other, everything sounds better. It just does.
Yeah.
Like if you got one guy there that's just putting a spanner in the works, like the whole thing goes down with it. So, my advice to the young guys, just try and enjoy what you're doing, and don't take it too seriously.
Right.
Just try and enjoy it, because if you
Yeah.
enjoy it and you're fun to be around, people want to have you around, and people want to have you around. Then you'll be asked. So that's
It's funny that you say my advice to young guys. I mean, you're barely 27, right?
I'm very old now. I tell you, I really am. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, you make me feel I'm twice your age, exactly twice your age, and that's not funny. But so let's talk a little bit about the arrangements. A lot of the Disney tunes that you've put out there.
Yeah.
Are those your arrangements, or
no? They're arrangements by that guy I was referring to earlier, Callum.
Oh, Callum.
Callum Au. Yeah. He's an arranging god, and also damn quick at it, which is really useful from a working arranger's point of view. Callum's a really good decision maker. So he runs his entire life based on logic. It's really funny. It's really good to be around as well. It's quite stoic as well. Like if he's presented with a problem and there's a yes or a no, or like a one or a two question, answer one or two, like he'll quickly find out which is the most logically correct answer and go with it. So it's really useful when you're trying to make arrangement decisions quickly, and you want to get things done. Like someone will suggest there's a problem with him, and he'll have a solution straight away because it's the most logical one. And the result of that is consistently great charts written at a speed that is usable for everyone, and he doesn't get bogged down by like decisions he made that maybe he regrets on the chart. Like he's just great like that. It's like when it's done, and then we just record it, and it's always a fun process. And because he's so quick as well, I don't feel so bad when I disagree with a decision he's made in a chart, and I'll just say, well, what about this as an idea? And he'll be like, oh, that can't happen because then that note will clash with this note, and I'll be like, and then I'll try and sort of like offer a logical response, and he might go, oh, I guess yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, let's do that. And then it's never any there's never any ego associated with any of it. The whole thing for us is that we started doing this as a partnership, if you will. I'm kind of the face of it, and he's sort of the brains of it, I guess, if you will. It's more of a partnership than people may see because I'm the one being featured. But I always have to make it quite clear as well when I do these things that he is the guy that's creating these arrangements. I produce everything, so I put it all together and I mix it all and do all that sort of side of things. But he is the one that is coming up with the ideas. This is what I was saying earlier about having like our weak links are filled by each other's strengths, and that's just a really, really healthy situation to be in.
Because I just came up. Sorry, this horrible analogy just popped into my head. It's like he's the chef creating this great meal, and you're the server who brings it to the table.
Pretty much, and then taste it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but of course, you're much more than just the server in that. But
yeah.
sorry,
I know what you mean though. It's absolutely right. Or I'm the guy choosing the menu and he makes it. That's kind of how it goes, because if I don't like the taste of it, then we change it. because in the end, if I'm having to play these things, and particularly live, then there has to be a bit of back and forth. And I understand arranging and harmony. It's not something that I'm particularly interested in. So I haven't really pursued it a huge amount. There are some people that are just quicker and better at it than me, and I'm probably quicker and better at something else than them. So I'll just go and do what I can do, and I'll call someone up that I like the sound of their arrangements. It's never been something that I've thought I really need to, like, I've got all this music in me, I just need getting out. It's like I'm not really like that. I feel as almost I have as much control over the finished product as the arranger, being the producer, because I get to make a lot of other judgment calls on things that I enjoy making. As I say, as much as the actual notes written down themselves. I expect all the harmony, all that to be taken care of, and as I say, I understand it all, but actually putting it on the paper just doesn't interest me in the same way. But with Cal, that's the beauty of it, is that I say, okay, let's do this tune, and I want it to be like this. So to give him an example of a tune, and then I'll say, and I want the ending to have like this constant feeling of rising. I remember talking to him. I don't know whether you've seen the video we did of Game of Thrones.
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
It's long, and it's it goes on. It's long, and it's got this big flute feature by a fantastic flautist. Anyway, we play the theme, and we do it this kind of like bembe style. It's quite cool. And at the end, I'm like, right, at the end, I don't care about the theme, like whatever, we'll just do a big high note thing at the end, right? But I was like, what I want it to sound like is I want it to be that this rising sort of bubbling feeling of anxiety. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Can you like, and it starts off like in middle register, my middle register, like with these charts, maybe like A above the stage, just sort of there, and then it will just keep going and going and going and going, but it's over a certain period of time, and the band's getting bigger and bigger and feeling, and I'm sort of explaining to him, he's going, yep, cool, and then I'm like, oh, he's probably not understood what I'm trying to say there, maybe I should do that. And then the next day he sends me the whole finished chart, and I look at the end, it's like 9-minute chart, I look at the end and I play it on Sibelius, I'm listening, I'm like, that is perfect,
Wow.
So I'm like super excited because he's done exactly what I've asked. And then I'm putting this together and I'm thinking, I feel like maybe we need a bit more sort of some like rumble going on, like some extra percussion or something. I'm like, right, okay, we'll get some percussionists. So I'm like, get 4 percussionists and I'm playing as well, like all of us are just smashing stuff in time, completely making it up, like, and it's just adding to this excitement. And that's the sort of thing you get in a partnership, is that I get to sort of explain to him what I think it needs and what it wants. He gets to sort of counter argue other sides of things, because hopefully the combined decision making is better than just one. And then it by sort of it just happens over a period of time, and we come out with this thing at the end. As I say, I'm more interested in the product than I am the process. So if I have to do something that's considered deemed unmusical to make the product better, I'll do it. I don't care. I want this thing to be smashing at the end. So and I hope as well that people can see like a progression in our work. If you look back to the first video, like, people always want me to play that on gigs, but I'm just like, ugh, like,
what was the first video?
Let It Go, from Frozen. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's really cool
Yeah.
time. It's the first one we tried to do. We weren't even really close mates at the time, me and Cal. We just thought we'd do it as a bit of a laugh, and I called up these guys, and everyone was up for it. That was all there was to it. And then it did really well, so we thought we'd do another one, and then another one, and then it was like, oh, looks like we got a thing going on here. We'll just do some more. And then over time, like I listened back to some of the first stuff, and I thought, I could do better now. Like I need to re-record some of this for my record. So we re-recorded a couple of things because I needed to basically make some adjustments. But yeah, the process is just really fun. We have a whole new record in the works, but we haven't recorded any of it yet. But yeah, so Callum's pretty much written a whole record over lockdown, just in between doing all of his other stuff. Same process, So
yeah,
that should be fun to do.
Yeah. It was just a few years ago. I watched music videos, and of course, when you don't know how it's done, you just look like, wow, they're playing it live and recording at the same time. Well, I realized later on that, it's a studio recording, and of course they shoot the playback
Yeah.
on this. Is that how you guys are doing your videos, or is this
Yeah.
truly a live?
No, it's not live. We record. We've done it in different ways, but I would say the most efficient way of doing it is because none of the guys in the band have seen any of the music, before the day of recording. So what I tend to do is I tend to set up my cameras, and I tend to get them to sort of play it down 2 or 3 times. So I'll film them. They're sort of sight reading it, usually pissing around and throwing stuff over the other side of the room and like putting the trumpet on their head, like being really unhelpful because I need to try and make a video out of this. But it gives them an opportunity to see it. It lets me film them without them having to do it again after they've recorded it. And then we just go through. So we'll just record trumpets first, and I'll just record them. We'll do a few takes, and if there's a couple of phrases that need doing 5 times, we'll just do them 5 times. No one seems to have a problem with it. And I just try. I'm such a perfectionist. It's just got to be perfect. So, it needs to be perfect. Like, I was recording something with some amazing trombone players once, and I keep getting reminded of this quote that I said. But I was sitting in the box, and I got on the talkback mic, and they played this thing. It's absolutely impossible to play, and they absolutely nailed it. But I felt like it needed like 2% more. There's just something not quite happening about it. And you got to also gauge. This is something I've learned over the time doing these things. Gauge the morale of the room, because it's your job to get them to play as well as you can. So it's not only about roasting them; it's also about getting them to play well. So there's a certain amount of roasting you can do, but at the same time, you have to get them to buy into it and want to keep doing it. So I'm sitting there on the mic, listening to it, I'm like, oh, my initial reaction is, guys, you absolutely nailed that. It was perfect. And then they were like, yay. And then I was thinking, I was like, yeah, actually, yeah, but perfect isn't good enough. So we're going to do it again, And so I'm like making them do it again. They're all thinking they've got it down. I'm like, no. We're going to have to do it again. And it's something I've learned over doing these things is that it's very clear when you get that take. It's weird, like particularly when you're recording it in this quite unmusical way. It's a very functionally good way, and it's very efficient with your resources way. But it's maybe would you consider it to be slightly more unmusical, or less musical? And what I've learned is that everyone in the room knows when it's the one, when you have that take. So you're all sitting there and you play it, and you don't even need to say anything. You just go, and again, that was pretty good. I like what you did there. And they're like, yeah, I like that as well. Okay, and again. And then suddenly there'll be one time they play, and everyone in the room goes, yeah, that was it. And then you're good. You can kind of just move on, do something else, But like those moments, I think are as exciting as the rest of it, Like, and I'm talking like 0.5% here. Every single time these guys play this stuff, it always sounds killing. Like, you could get them to play one take and it would be killing. It would be perfect. But it wouldn't. Perfect wouldn't be good enough. I would need it to be that 0.5% is the difference between, someone like. I guess maybe you could make a better judgment on people that don't like it than do, because generally speaking, people do like it. But get more people that don't like it to like it because that 0.5%. So that's kind of what's going through my head. And also, I got to sit there for hours and hours listening to it. And if third trumpet is playing a D ever so slightly sharp, and I could have got him to do it again, I'm going to get him to do it again, because I don't want to sit there and listen to that, So, and they all get that, and they all want to do it, and they know that the product at the end is going to be good. So I'm a bit of a tyrant in there, but it's only for people that want to be involved, and people want to be involved. So I'm very, very lucky,
Well, I mean, this obviously speaks to your success, not just over the last few years, but from the time you picked up drumsticks, right? I mean, this was there from the beginning.
I think so,
right?
Yeah.
And then, so
perfectionism.
you're only 27. I mean, can you imagine what kind of damage you're going to do by the time you're 50.
Or maybe, or I'll be fed up with the whole thing and throwing it up and just be fixing showers for the rest of my life. I don't
know. No. Well, if you do, they'll be perfect. But
they'll be the best showers in the world.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the aim anyway. That's the goal. I hope I can get there. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
But that's my attitude to the whole thing. I think it's a fun way to be. But yeah.
Man, this has been great. You know, I wish I had actually pushed record at the beginning of this. I'm kidding. It is recording. So. Can we go back and do all that again?
Yeah.
Word for word. So no, Louis, this really has been good, and I've had a blast listening to you, man. And you know,
thank you.
Sometimes you wonder, young players, you still young, you know, do they have enough experience? Do they have enough the ability to communicate? And you do. You've got that, and it's nice, because I will say, and I'm going to edit this part out, but I have interviewed some younger players who I have to pull answers out of. It's like,
really?
Well, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
that's hard. It must be hard work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had that in a very long time, but I learned. Anyways,
how to get exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for the time this morning. Or the afternoon.
I had a great time. I love talking about trumpet. I love talking about different things like this. It's been absolute pleasure. And if you want to ever do it again, we can talk about go into a bit more detail with some of the things we discussed today. I'd be more than happy to do so. It'd be great.
Well, I might when your album finally comes out, that might be a good time to touch base and you know, promote that a little bit too. So do you have a title? Do you have a title for that one yet?
No, we're still, I would say we're 70 or 75% of the way through conceptualizing it. And once we get the concept together and we start recording it, then we'll get a better idea of like where it's going to be. And then maybe it'll be a title track, or we'll come up with a different name. I'm not really sure. So no, we're not quite there yet. We're probably 6 months to a year off. Depends on how I decide to do the record. Whether I decide to do it in isolation or we try and do it out of isolation. They're the kind of, that's the thing. So we'll have to see. Yeah.
So this popped into my head. Of course, Louis Armstrong, you know, a lot of people called him Louis. Anybody ever call you Louis?
I am a Louis. That's my name.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
It's not Louis.
But I appreciate, no, it's not, but I appreciate any American that calls me Louis is doing it because that's what the name is in the US. Here, Lewis is Louis. Louis is Louis from France. So I'm not French, but I have a French name. My parents gave me a French name, so I am considered Louis. I've even started maybe even writing it Louie just to help people out. But I am used now to Americans calling me Louis, and I appreciate when they do, because I know that when they call me Louis, it's a sign of formality and respect. Because I know that maybe in the US, if there's a Louis, they might have a nickname as Louis or something.
Right, or Lou.
Or Lou, yeah, exactly. So, but my name is Louis. So shout it loud and clear.
So I'm going to cut and edit this part and put it at the beginning of the interview, because I think that might answer a question for a lot of people, right? But,
yeah. Well, it's my mum's fault for choosing a complicated name, and my dad's fault for having a complicated last name. But either way, my name is Louis Dowdeswell, and I must say, I'm used to being called Louis, and it's not a big deal to me. But I know why Americans do it, and it makes perfect sense.
Well, Louis, thanks, man.
Thanks so much,
again,
Larry.
I appreciate it, and I'll keep you posted on when this comes out. So
please,
yeah. All right. Cheers.
Fantastic. All right, man. I'll see you soon. Yeah. Thanks so much. Cheers.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.